Hey, welcome to The Nest, a disc golf podcast where we talk about relevant topics in the disc golf world. I'm your host, Mike, with my co-host, Dan. Dan, say hi to the world.
Hey everybody.
Yeah, so we're going to do something a little different this week. We're going to focus primarily on USDGC, my favorite event of the year, Dan's favorite event of the year. We are going to talk about one thing first, and that's some pretty big news that came out over the last couple weeks in two parts, basically. It has become official. The NTs are no more. Everything will be under the Disc Golf Pro Tour umbrella. All the NTs will be dissolved and under Disc Golf Pro Tour. And yeah, something we've talked about for a long time, something we kind of saw coming. Dan, when you heard about it, what were your thoughts?
Honestly, the first thought that came to my mind was just excitement. Uh, I think this is something that's need to happen for a while now, and I'm super, super excited that it did. I think it allows the PDGA to focus on different things that I think they should focus on and would be very beneficial to them and to the disc golf community as a whole, and let Disc Golf Pro Tour do what they've proven to be good at, what the players know that they're good at. So I think this is going to be awesome for events coming up and um, good for disc golf in general.
Yeah, I agree. I've been someone who's been not as harsh on the PDGA and on the NTs as other people. And what I've been saying, what I've always said is the NTs have been the same. They've been the same standard for a while now, and that standard was okay a few years ago. It was everybody expected and knew what it would be. But the issue became when the Disc Golf Pro Tour came along and they set the bar so high, and that just fair or not fair became the new expectation, and the NTs just weren't quite that. It's ran by an organization that doesn't just focus on these tour events. They have a lot of other things to focus on. And so for me, it's just a win-win for everybody. I'm glad the PDGA acknowledged that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is the best at what they do. And it's on the Disc Golf Pro Tour side, it's amazing that they keep taking steps forward. And, they became the official tour of the disc golf, basically.
Yeah.
So just recently it came out, the new schedule, 22 schedule. And we all wonder what the NTs, what would happen if they'd be part of the series, what was going to happen. And it looks like the Masters Cup and the Beaver State Fling are going to be Silver Series events. Music City Open is in the works to be a Silver Series. We're not quite sure what that means or what's holding it up, but it's possible. And then Texas States and DDO are going to jump right into the Elite Series. They're going to add on to those. And the odd man out, it looks like, is the Delaware Disc Golf Challenge. They are not going to be either Silver Series or Elite. I assume they're just going to be an A tier. Yeah. Dan, when you saw this, were there any that stuck out to you that you wish were in a different spot, or what did you think?
Yeah, for the most part, I think it looks pretty solid. I think especially for Masters Cup and Delaware, I think they did a good job of dropping Delaware. I think it was just a lackluster event. I think the courses are a little dated, and I know a lot of the players don't really like showing up to that event anyways. So in the Masters Cup, everyone De La is De La. I mean, it has the nostalgia, but then again, a lot of people are thinking it's a little bit more outdated, and I'm sure we'll probably lose that course within the next year or two.
Yeah.
And then as for the only event I'm really sad to see not on the Elite Series is Beaver State Fling, which is Milo East and Milo West. That course is phenomenal. Beaver State Fling is one of other than USDGC, I think Beaver State Fling is my favorite event.
Hmm.
So going back and watching that event in the past is one of the most exciting courses to watch, and it um, really takes a good player. So I think it's definitely worth an Elite Series event. I'm not sure why that didn't happen. I don't know if it's scheduling issue or what the case may be, but I
Portland.
am sad. Yeah, Portland. We could just switch those out. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
Portland's doo-doo compared to
Portland's a good
uh
event, but it's not
it's
Beaver State.
okay. It's definitely not Beaver State Fling. And maybe we just have everyone show up to the Silver Series event. It's just as good. I pray to God. But, I think it should be an Elite Series event. But
I was surprised as well when I saw that, but thinking more about it, with it not being an event the last 2 years because of COVID, and then obviously with the weather they had, it might be a situation where they just want to ease into it, or they don't know. Maybe the course had to be changed significantly, or we don't know. That is kind of a bummer too. I agree. Um, one thing that I am excited for is like all these events that we kind of came back after that the week after and said, it was a pretty good event. It was okay. These NTs with Disc Golf Pro Tour getting full control over these events, I expect all of them to become great events.
Yeah.
Very rarely do we end a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Series event or even Silver Series and come back and go, that just wasn't it.
Yeah.
We always have good things to say. And so for me, just everything going under their umbrella, I think is just going to really excel the growth of the sport and make it easier for casual fans or new fans to understand what's going on. Why is there two tours? Like, what does that mean? You don't see that in other sports. So for it all to be under Disc Golf Pro Tour, I think it's great. And it is unfortunate to see Beaver State as a Silver Series. Master Cup, I agree with you. It's just probably on the decline. It'll probably get phased out very soon, I would imagine, unless they make major changes, which that doesn't seem realistic. But I would say I think as years go on, Silver Series will be bigger and better or more prestigious, harder to win. Everything's just going to get harder to win. And those Silver Series are going to be very important for those edge players who, if there is a tour card at some point for 50, 60 players and the rest have to earn exemptions, it's going to, you're going to see a lot of names there who need to continue to push forward. So super excited about that. The other big news is they announced that rather than just having the end of the year championship, there's going to be basically a 3 tournament playoff, basically the championship at the end. But prior to that, it will be GMC and MVP Open, and it's going to cut the field to where it looks like about the top 100 are going to get an invite or something to the GMC, and then they'll cut the fat off of that, and top 80 or so will get to go to MVP, and then we are not sure how many would go to the championship at that point. Maybe they'll extend the field. It's hard to say. I love it. I think it's a great way to give some opportunities to people not quite in the mix, but still make them earn their way into the championship. I think it's great for storylines. Good Cinderella stories could come out of it. To me, it's a win-win. Dan, what did you think when you saw it?
Yeah, there has been some backlash, and I don't know how big it is, but I did see a little bit on social media of maybe some local players, because there is a huge local scene over on the
Mm-hmm.
East Coast. So there's a lot of players that were like, man, I think it's a little unfair that none of the other events abide by these rules. And then as a local pro, I'm not able to play in these events just because I don't have the tour points, which is unfortunate. It does suck for some of those players because I'm sure a lot of those players would compete really well and do probably pretty well. But if you're not touring, unfortunately you don't get to make the playoffs, and that's just the reality of the situation. I think it's a great idea. As Mike said, there's a lot of cool things that'll come of it by being a touring player and being able to go to those events and hopefully make your way to the tour finale. Obviously, we don't know how big that is, but
Mm-hmm.
some kind of story like that where you play really well at GMC and MVP, and those are 2 tournaments that are extremely, extremely prestigious, and the courses that are tied to those events are just as difficult and prestigious. So cutting the fat and making it so we have only those touring players on those courses, I think is very beneficial to the sport. And like we said, this is the highest level of the sport. Um, you don't have your average Joes just sign up to, play in the highest level of any other sport. And it shouldn't be like that for disc golf. So I think this is a step in the right direction. And we'll see, I think we'll see every other event in the Pro
Mm-hmm.
Tour do this within the next 2 or 3 years, where if you're not either don't have a touring card or however they distinguish that, if you don't meet that criteria, you just won't be playing the event.
Yep.
So
I think it's unfortunate for those people, for them falling on the sword first, being the first people
yeah,
to have to deal with it. But I don't. It's the step in the right direction. Like Dan said, I think this is going to become the new norm. You don't see, if I have enough money and sign up soon enough, I can't go play in a PGA event in golf. And, disc golf's getting to the point where they're going to fill events with qualified players no matter what. So to allow non-qualified players to play just because they press a button faster, it's not the right way to do things. It makes events slower. It makes events less prestigious. And it's just the way we have to move forward as more and more people get better at disc golf, and they're going to be more and more players on tour, or want to be on tour. I see this as a good opportunity. I see, hopefully in the future, that more events, basically all events are going to kind of almost have the same format as USDGC, like this week, where you have to qualify, and it probably won't be the same type of qualification. There'll probably be exemptions or tour cards or something. But if you're not qualified, you have every opportunity to play in a qualifier the week before. I think that's a great way to allow local players, local pros, the chance on their home turf to prove that they're good enough there, get an opportunity to earn an exemption for other tournaments down the road. I think that's a great way to do it. And, I think that'd be a great way to boost the prize pool as well, to where have the entry fee for the qualifier be pretty hefty, and there's no prize money given out for it. It's just all the prize money goes towards the main event, and your reward for doing well in the qualifiers, you get to play in the event. And I think that's just a good way to move forward. And, in golf, there's 1,000, 2,000 guys battling every single year just to have a chance to play in events. And we're not there yet, obviously, in disc golf, but on a smaller scale, we kind of are, especially with smaller fields and less tournaments. There's more and more people who are getting close to that line of being able to tour or thinking they can tour, and we have to distinguish who's allowed to even try at this point, I think, to make the tour what it needs to be in the future. I mean, there's a lot of other events. There's a lot of A tiers. There's a lot of big B tiers people can be playing in. We shouldn't it shouldn't be okay, or it shouldn't be expected for anybody to get into these top tier events, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing next year what happens. There was talks of some sort of tour card kind of next year. We'll see if that progresses in the off season. But yeah, super exciting stuff. So yeah, let's just get into USDGC. Let's talk about the course first. I mean, we all know the course. For those of you that don't, it's been there since its inception. The name of the college is Winthrop, and then it's Winthrop University. I believe it's university. They flip around holes every once in a while, but it's basically the same course every single year with a few small modifications. One modification this year being hole 9. They've added some more mozzarella sticks. So for those of you that don't know, USDGC on a couple holes have wood sticks, rounded sticks, about 8-9 feet tall, depending on what hole. Some of them are shorter, but in strategic locations to make putts harder, throws harder. Some people like them, some people hate them. But this year they put it right in front of a tee box. Right in front of a tee box. And they put them about 7 feet apart, and there's like 6 or 7 of them. And at first there was huge outrage. People thought this is ridiculous. This looks super bad. I wasn't a fan of it in the beginning. I watched the Foundation guys play a practice round. They had it on YouTube yesterday. And I gotta be honest, I think I might have changed my mind. I think I'm okay with it. It didn't seem to affect them in a way that wasn't fair. And these are not pros, right? So if they can handle it, I think pros can handle it. I think it makes a hole tougher. It gives that mental difficulty in a hole. And, people can't have it both ways. There's a huge portion of the disc golf community that wants scores not to be negative 10, 11, 12 every round. But the thing about it is, disc golf, it's always going to be easier to score in than golf. Just because you can step out of the way of obstacles. Putting is pretty much constant. There's no slopes to read. There's no greens to read. You just throw it. So the fact of the matter is, like, birdies are going to happen more often, and scrambling's easier, just the way it is. So if we're going to try to make things harder, this is the kind of way we're going to have to do it. It doesn't look natural, but, sand bunkers don't necessarily look natural either in golf. I don't mind it. I think it's okay. Dan, I know you were pretty adamant against it. Did you change your mind at all after seeing it, or what are you thinking?
I don't know if I'm quite in the same boat as you. Bottom line, I think they look stupid. They look silly, and I don't think you disagree. I think it looks dumb.
No,
it
yeah.
looks tacky. It looks silly. But yeah, I don't think you said, like, it didn't affect too harshly on people that weren't pros. So let's just go out and say they're probably not going to be affecting pros very much. There is a chance they'll think about it, but chances are a lot of pros are just throwing over these anyways. Some of them are throwing through, so there is that. You you can't excuse that. But I think they look tacky. I think they don't add a whole lot to the hole, but they're 7 feet apart, and it's pretty close to the tee pad. Like, um, it's not that hard. People aren't gonna miss and chuck it into the tree. In my opinion, I don't think there'll be anyone in the top two cards at least that we'll see on coverage actually hit one.
See, yeah,
Um,
Dan was saying that earlier today, and I think we're gonna be watching it together. I think someone's gonna hit it. I think someone's is gonna get in their head and they're gonna
I
whack one.
I just watched Simon's vlog, and he walked up to the hole, and he turned around, and he said, "Someone's gonna hit these." And Joey Tamale, he's the camera guy,
Hmm.
but he's also nine high 900s, almost 1,000 Albatross sponsored player. He said my practice round I smacked it. So
Really,
I mean, I could be surprised, but I
right?
honestly don't think in tournament setting, I don't think they're gonna hit it.
Well, and
So
here's my thing. You one of the things you said is, well, they'll just throw over it, so it's pointless. But if they weren't there,
would they be
would
throwing
they
it
be
over?
throwing over it? Because if the answer is
That's,
no, then they made the hole harder, in my opinion,
yeah,
right? So even if no one's gonna hit it because it's in the way, I think that still gives an added difficulty to a hole. I do think there's going to be someone that whacks it, pressure's on, oh my God, cameras are watching me. I pured this 6 times. You know how that is. You pure something in a practice round 1,000 times, you get up on the tee and you don't. And we're not pros, but we're human and so are they. So, I mean, we've seen people do dumber stuff on coverage.
it's true.
So, I, and just think about, that final round, you're on lead card, you're not supposed to be there maybe, and all of a sudden those look pretty thick. So,
It's very true.
does it look dumb? Yeah,
Yes.
I guess. But I don't know. I have to believe that when the first sand bunker got put on a golf course, people probably thought those looked pretty dumb too. And people just got used to them. It's not really the same thing, but I mean, it is what it is. I want disc golf to be harder in a sense of scoring. Um, you know, at the end of the day, it's never going to be as hard to scramble and to putt in disc golf as it is golf. So we need to get a little creative. If you're not building a brand new course, right? If you're building a brand new course, there's tons of ways to make things harder. We saw it. We saw it firsthand with the course that Paul and Brody and them just played on. Um, what course?
Oh, New London.
Yeah, New London. Yeah, I mean that course is tough. It's got teeth, and they made it that way on purpose. But when you have a course that's already been put in the ground for years and years, you can't do much to it. So I think this is the way if we want to have these prestigious courses continue to stay on tour, we have to get a little creative. Maybe this is the way to do it. Maybe it's not. But we'll. I'm really curious to see how many players complain and how many players hit it. I think it'll be interesting.
I was gonna say, right at the initially there was I know Jordan Castro was kind of the first one to be like, "Hey guys, I just got to USDGC and there's sticks right in front of the tee pad," and there were a lot of backlash from fans and even a few of the players commented on it. But as they got there, I haven't heard a whole lot, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm just not looking in the right place. But I really don't think players are that upset about it. And if the players playing this aren't too upset about it, then I don't think as fans we should really um, dive too deep into it and cling on to it too hard.
Sure.
So. I think that's important to
Yeah.
kind of look at.
Okay. Cool. Did you have anything else about the course or anything other than players themselves?
I mean, it looks good.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a great event. It
for
always
sure.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into a few players. And I think the first person we should go over is last year's champ, Chris Dickerson. You talk about other sports, like you think about in baseball, they call guys, Mr. October and like postseason guys. And I think of Chris Dickerson, maybe rightly or wrongly, but when I think of like end of the year guys who turn it on, I think of Chris. And him being the champ last year, the only person ever to go back to back at this event is Climo. So, he has an opportunity to do something that only one guy has ever done. When asked about it this today or yesterday, he said that he isn't really feeling the pressure of going back to back right now. He said he was open. He said he might feel it when he steps on that tee, but as of right now, he's not feeling it. Terry Miller asked him, man, Chris, you've been playing a lot of events. You're at 30 events already this year. And Chris kind of laughed. He said, I think I was at 40 by this time last year. I'm actually feeling pretty refreshed. The dude's a grinder. And if he says he's refreshed, I have to believe him. So if he's feeling really good, and this is a course that obviously plays well to his strengths, he has to be in the mix for sure.
Yeah, I think Chris is a sleeper. I mean, he throws way further than any of us know. His sidearm goes so far, way farther than you think. It's the snappiest, one of
Super
the cleanest,
underrated.
yeah, forehands I've ever seen. And he's a putting machine. I think he's super smart out on the
Smart.
course and
Hmm.
makes smart decisions where, I think Winthrop is a special course because, I think it's the only course on tour, or in the professional scene that we've seen where you can go backwards in terms of score. Like there's some courses where you can't keep you don't if you don't keep pace with the other guys, you're gonna fall behind in the leaderboard. But there's someone that could be, 10 strokes ahead and go eight over.
Yep.
And top guys, not just
Hmm.
guys that shouldn't be there. I mean, 2020, I think it was, the USDGC Paul injured himself in the ankle. I mean, he shot 10 over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously his ankle was injured, but he was out there playing, throwing shots that, he would normally throw. So
Yeah.
you can definitely go backwards, and I think Chris is super smart. I think he's gonna do really well here. I don't know if he's gonna win again, but I can definitely see him being in contention, and definitely won't be surprised if he's out on top at the end.
It's pretty wild to me. I don't know if this is the exact number, but I saw a number thrown out that only 11 people have ever won USDGC. 11 or 12 people, but no one's gone back to back except for Climo, which is pretty crazy.
Crazy.
That there's
Yeah,
that small of a pool of players that have won it, but no one's gone back to back. It's just, it's one of those, it's one of those events. Dan and I were talking earlier. Everyone deserves to be there. We were just
yeah.
talking about the Pro Tour, some flaws where players can get in. You see a 905 rated player on a course that they shouldn't be at. Everyone deserves to be there that's there this week. That's what makes this tournament so great. And the fact that everyone deserves to be there, but there's still so many blowups, is what makes this tournament so amazing. Um, I think with Chris, and this is a theme, the players who do well at this course are ones who are smart, who make good decisions. That's why Nate Sexton is one here. That's why Chris Dickerson can be in contention. That's why even guys like Jeremy Colling, who does play smart and has a good sidearm, is always in the mix. So it's such a great event. You have to stay in bound. The guys who are kind of spraying it and inconsistent, it's like you can only go so long before it blows up in your face on this course. So Chris is always in the mix for sure. Next we'll talk about Paul a little bit. He's won this twice. He won in 15. He won in 18. So if the past is any indication of the future, he's due for every 3 years.
Mm.
We can't talk about Paul without talking about his putting this year. Right now, as of, I don't know if the last tournament changed it, but at that time he was at only 83% Circle 1X putting, which is, you probably have to go back pretty far. I'm going to say it, basically a career low. The last 4 or 5 years, he's been about, since UDisc has been keeping track, around the 86, 87, 88%, always towards the top. And right now, I think he's like 30th or something, maybe even lower. He was asked about it this week, and he said, it's just tough when you feel a little bit off and you're on the tour all year long. You don't have a ton of time to change stuff. He did make some tweaks recently. He said it wasn't really a tweak to his putt, rather just kind of a tweak to his setup, changing the flat Anheuser. He says it feels it gets a little cleaner, keeps his palm up. So he says he's working on it. He says it feels good right now. Whether it feels good or if he's just trying to convince us or himself, I guess time will tell. Um, you know, this year obviously hasn't been a marquee signature Paul Macbeth season, but what do you think of Paul's season so far, and what would a win here do for his season in comparison to other people?
It's been interesting just because I feel like as a community, we have such a high expectation for Paul, and I'm sure he feels the same expectation. Like everyone has it, including himself. But it was just absurdly high. I think he's having a solid season. Uh, I wouldn't say great. I mean, he's he's been regarded as one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest. So when you have a season where you're just kind of consistently getting in the top 10, top 5, top 3, and the only two wins, I mean, he has DDO, which is a very notable win, and then the other one is DMC, which was its first time being a Pro Tour event, kind of just got thrown in there because one of the overseas events got canceled, and then Eagle and Rick didn't even show up.
Hmm.
So he's missing two of the top three players in the world. So it kind of just takes away from that win, unfortunately. And it just doesn't feel like Paul's really had that notable win where you look at the season, you're like, oh man, like Paul Macbeth won that event. That was a really, really good win for him. So I think USDGC, if he can pull this off, which it would be no surprise if he did. He's a great player. He has all the skills, um, and he's a killer. He's got the killer instinct that I don't think we've seen anyone to have yet.
Hmm.
And he was, I mean, they call him McBeast for a reason. That's not just a nickname that he somehow found. It's because of who he is, how he plays. Um, and I think taking down the event would just it would make his season great. It would be that event he's looking for, and it'd probably um, be well above just the event he was looking for. Like this is the event to win,
Hmm.
and he came up short in Worlds. If he won USDGC, 1 and 2 in Worlds and the United States Championship, I mean, that's a pretty baller season. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I agree. I think we sort of do give a little bit of unfair expectation on Paul because of past years. And the reality is, disc golf just isn't what it was when he was winning every single event. Him and Ricky, there was a span where if him and Ricky were at an event, one of them won it for like I think over a year almost.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it is anymore. There people have gotten too good. The gap has been closed and passed. So it's been a great season. You wouldn't be crazy to have him in the argument of one of the best seasons of anyone this year, but it's kind of missing that marquee win. He's been super consistent. He's always in the top 10, but that's not what he expects to do. That's not what we expect him to do. So I think it's kind of that in between where it's a little bit too high of expectation, but it's definitely reasonable to say it hasn't been the year he's expected. He was asked, with the Paul Macbeth Foundation, if it's been affecting his game, not being giving him enough time to do what he needs to do. And he said no. He said he has an amazing team in place that he doesn't really have to do much day to day, and it's more of an off-season thing for him. So he's not using that as an excuse. Like you said, no one would be surprised if he's in contention this week. And disc golf's always more exciting, and more people watch when Paul's in contention. So I hope he is in contention. And all of a sudden, if he wins this event, I mean, if you go 1 and 2 in all the majors of the year, all of a sudden you have arguably the best season of anybody. So he's right there. We'll see.
I won't go that far, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good season.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
season.
So another person we wanted to talk about just because he won so recently and this course fits him so well, and he is the world champ currently, is James Conrad. He's been struggling since Worlds. Let's just get that out. I mean, that's just the reality. He's only hit the top 10, I think, 2 or 3 times since then. And he was asked about it. He said, basically what I got from it is the high of Worlds, to come down from that, it's kind of hard to focus. He said he's been struggling to focus for an entire tournament. He's tweaking it. He's working on it. He feels like he's putting it together, and he said he's not worried about it. So I want him to be in contention, just, kind of like Paul. I love seeing him in contention. It's always fun. The way he carves courses like this is just beautiful to watch. I know Dan's pretty partial to James. So I know he's going to want him in contention, but do you think he can be in contention? Do you think, I don't want to, I'm not going to say Worlds was a fluke, but like other than Worlds, he hasn't really been.
I will not hear that kind of slander ever, ever, ever again.
Listen, if Paul had only had 2 top 10 since Worlds, what would you be saying about him?
Who cares? He's a world champion.
Yeah,
Are you
okay.
kidding me?
Yeah, well, do you think he can is he going to show up this week? Is he going
Heck
to
yes. And let me be real for a second. I think it is a thing where he just won worlds. I mean, he could not show up for the next 4 events, and honestly, does that make his season any worse? No. Yes, but no.
Yeah.
Being a world champion, he's exceeded his expectations for this season already,
Yeah, I understand.
halfway through
Yeah.
the year. But that's not to say that he can't come out. I truly believe he'll come out and show out at this event because he's won it in the past. One of what 4 players to win USDGC and Worlds. Yeah, I mean
Yeah, it's maybe
it's four or
it's three,
six.
3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slim number, very small. And this event, he's the best one-way backhand thrower in the game. That's not even debatable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he has elite distance, elite decision-making skills. He knows when he needs to push, when he needs to play safe. I mean, he's just a phenomenal player. And if it's his week, he'll be here and he'll be at the top of the leaderboard if he's banging putts, which he typically is, one of the best Circle 2 putters in the world. Um, put some ropes in front of him, let him jump right over on his step putts, and we're gonna have a fun weekend.
I'm excited. I hope he's in contention. For someone to win Worlds and USDGC. Not only has he done it, just and what Dan was referring to is just in a career.
Yeah, in a career, not even
So
a year.
yeah,
He'd be the
so
only player to win
he's out.
Worlds
Is
and
he? Would
USD.
he? Do you think
I think so.
has Climo ever done that?
I'm almost positive in the interview. I don't 100% quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Terry was said you'd be the only player in history to be able to win Worlds and USDGC in the same year. I I
If
think so.
I mean whether that's true or not, it would be in this day and age
Yeah.
the best achievement probably in disc golf ever,
Whether
arguably.
Ken Climo's done it or not,
Yeah, I
like
mean it just wasn't the
it's a
same
new
then.
era.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, just like we are giving credit for Paul not winning every event like he used to, doing it in this era would be incredible. Um, Probably you could say the best season of anyone ever, honestly. To be quite honest. So there's other people we want to talk about. Of course, one person we have to talk about, the monkey on his back, as he said in his interview this week. Ricky Rysaki never won USDGC. He's come close many a times, handful of second places, but second place has kind of been his thing this year. It seems like he's done it quite a few times. He hasn't won since either late July or early August, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Um, Ricky's one of those guys, in my opinion, that if there's anything to say about him, is his decision making sometimes is not what it probably should be, and he sprays it off the tee. And those are probably the two worst characteristics you can have at USDGC because, I mean, Ricky's the best scrambler in the world, but you don't really get to scramble here. If you have a bad shot, you're just coming right back where you started, or you're out of bounds or a drop zone, depending on the hole. Not a lot of places to scramble out here. You have to have good shots, you have to stay in bounds, you have to make good decisions, and that can be a weakness for Ricky at times. So, do you expect him to be in contention this week? Is this the year he finally gets it off, or what do you think?
I think you hit it on the nose. He's a sprinkler system. Um, One of the best throwers of the disc. But where he really shines is, I think, I truly believe he's the best scrambler in the world. I mean, I think he's the best scrambler the game has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an amazing, phenomenal putter. But like you said, there's not a whole lot of places to scramble. A lot of it is stroke and distance and hazard. So if you shank your putt or shank your shot by the basket, it goes OB, you don't get that 30-foot putt from the OB line. You're taking it, 60 feet into the hazard putting from there, which isn't likely that you'll make it up and down. And then you have stroke and distance, where if you don't land in bounds on your 400-foot shot, that means you're throwing the same shot again. You don't
Yep.
get to advance. So that's just really tough as a player who isn't super. If he's not dialed in this weekend, he just won't be in contention. Do I think that'll be the case? Not at all. I think he's a player that has experience, and I think he'll be on his A game as he normally is. And I hope that's just enough to come out on top for him, because I think he's a player that it is a monkey on his back. He needs to win a U.S. title at some point.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of those guys. I don't want to keep saying this over and over, but if he's up there at the top, no one's going to be surprised. But for him to do it, it's going to have to be something different than what he's done. So we'll have to see. Another guy that is at the top, Eagle McMahon, another guy who's never won USDGC, hasn't had as many opportunities. Obviously, he's younger than Ricky, but Dan and I were talking about Eagle earlier today, and there was a point a while back where it looked like Eagle was getting really close to starting to become a villain in disc golf. Just the way he acted on the course. Everybody remembers what happened a few years ago at USDGC when he broke his hand. His antics on the course were getting a little out of hand. And his character development, his arch has been pretty incredible. He's matured. He's came into his own. He's obviously started to dominate the game. Maybe the best player in the world. Very easy argument to make if you want to. But this is one tournament that he hasn't won. One of the tournaments. And so for me, this is the course that you can't get away with. You can't win unless you're mentally strong. And I think this is going to be a good, every year, I think this is going to be a good benchmark for where Eagle is at mentally, because if you're not mentally strong, this course is going to eat you up. And if he stays mentally strong, I think he's the favorite. I think you have to assume he's going to be up there, but we'll see. I mean, obviously there's been troubles in the past, and hopefully he can overcome those.
Yeah, I think you hit it again. I think physically, and skill set wise, he's the best player by a large margin. He's got an extremely powerful forehand, extremely powerful backhand. He's an amazing putter. He's just got it all. But like you said, especially years previously, he's really struggled. I mean, he broke his hand by punching the ground in this very event when he was in a position to win. I mean, if he hadn't broke his hand, he would have likely won. James shot over par, and Eagle shot relatively close to that with a broken hand, only throwing forehand. So if he would have been fully healthy, I truly believe he would have won that event. And it's one thing to break your hand when you're not in contention and we're just really struggling that weekend, but he was there. He was having a good weekend, just
Yeah.
one missed putt, and he lost it and punched the ground, broke his hand. But I think it's, like Mike said, it's been really nice and good to see him kind of come around as a person and as a player and really take humility in the fact that he struggles and he wants to be better about that. And I think he has. And I think this is a perfect gauge to figure out where he's at.
Yeah.
And truth be told, if I think he's going to perform really well at this event. I think he's the favorite. And if he doesn't win this year, within the next 3 years, I'm going to say he's going to win a U.S. title, if not two.
I think that's two would be pretty impressive, but I think one in the next 3 years is a pretty safe bet. I think,
Yeah.
He's only moving up. I mean, he's pushing the needle. He already arguably is the best player in the world. And he's not at his ceiling. It doesn't seem he is, it seems hard to believe he could be at his ceiling this young. So yeah, for sure. And then the last of the 1050 bros, although Calvin's down to 1049 for those who care about ratings, is Calvin Heinberg. He made a hard push last year to try to overtake Dickerson at the end.
Tsunami.
Yeah, and I call push very generously because he kind of decelerated on that push at some points in the round where it didn't seem like he stepped on the gas, and that's something that we've kind of noticed is kind of a theme with Calvin. Calvin has tons of top 10s, tons of top 5s, tons of top 3s this year, but they seem like top 3s and top 5s that he's never in contention to win the thing. Where he's in 6th and he moves up a couple spots, or he's in 5th and he moves up a couple spots. It's not Calvin's in the lead going to the final round, and it just seems like he at times doesn't really have that second gear. And maybe he does, and maybe we're just not. It's hard to see it on his face. Obviously, if he does, he hides it well. But I mean, this is one of those places that you have to have 4 very solid rounds and overcome stuff, and like you said, know when to push on the pedal, and we just haven't really seen that from Calvin. And he's had a great year, but lacking marquee wins, like we've said about a couple other people. And it seems silly to say I don't think he can win this event, but I don't until he does it. I don't think he can, if that makes sense. It just seems like he lacks that second gear he needs to push when he's not already in a lead by a wide margin.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think he can definitely win, and I won't be surprised if he does, like we've talked about with the rest of these
Yeah.
players. And um, I think he is a player that has found himself in position to, even first, second, third going into those final days. But it just doesn't seem like his game plan changes much. It seems like he's just
Yeah,
throwing the shots
and
in front
that's
of him.
I think that's a really good way to put it. His game plan
And
doesn't seem to change.
if he's in second and needs a stroke, it feels like he's just gonna throw the same shot no matter what. Like the score doesn't matter to him. And if you want to be cemented as one of the greatest players of all time and win some of these events, you need to hit the gas sometimes, and you need to take those risks coming down the stretch to separate yourself from the field. And it doesn't seem like Kelvin does that often enough.
Hmm.
He does it obviously, and you're of a player of his caliber, he's going to do it naturally. But it doesn't seem like he's taking that mental jump, if you will, to make those decisions, take those risks. And this is a course where you're going to need to, There's some holes that you can eagle, and sometimes you're going to have to do that at a risky time. And hopefully Calvin can do it. He's shown he can do it. I mean, he's eagled holes in the worst rainstorm I've ever seen someone play disc golf in. So it can be done. And he just needs to go out there and do it. I think he can, and like Mike said, he doesn't have a whole lot of emotion, so we never know. But
Hmm.
I think it'd be dumb to say he doesn't care or that he doesn't have that extra gear because we know he does. He just needs to use it. So
Right. I never really thought of it in the way you said it. It just doesn't seem like his strategy changes, regardless of the situation, and that's probably very valuable in certain instances. But in certain instances, you have to kind of just take that risk, and we haven't really seen him take risks before. So it's kind of interesting that you said it that way. I definitely agree. We've kind of highlighted the big marquee guys. Is there anybody else you wanted to mention? Obviously, I mean, recent winners of the event in the last 4 or 5 years. Obviously, Nate Sexton loves this course. Always seems to do well at this course. Haven't seen him much this year, obviously, and when we did, it wasn't the Nate of old. But when you're not playing much, you can't really expect much more. And then, of course, the year before that, Big Germ winning. It's going to be all new discs. That'll be interesting, as you guys know, may or may not know. If you don't know by now, his bag got stolen at Music City Open and all his backups. So he essentially will be playing with all brand new discs for the last two arguably biggest events of the year for him. Be a great story if he was up in there, but is there anybody you want to highlight it at all?
not highlight necessarily. I know the plan is to get into our predictions, and I think we'll just talk about who we have. Um, But yeah, I think we talked a little bit about it. If you're at this event, you can win it. It is unique in that aspect that every single person at this event can win it and has the skill set. And I think it's safe to say you can't say that about every other Pro Tour
Mm-hmm.
event just because you do have those stragglers that make it in the event. But these guys all qualified. They're all meant to be here. And 1,000 rated player could come out and win. And that's the reality of the situation. You come out and shoot hot for 4 rounds. And I don't know about Mike's predictions, but my predictions don't include a whole lot of the people we just got done talking about. The favorites, the 1050 guys. I think it's going to be a toss up, and it's just who's going to bring it this week and who's going to throw the disc well.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so let's we don't typically do predictions just because we don't like saying the same three or four guys every single week, but this event's unique. So I'm personally just going to give you three guys who I think are going to be up there as favorites, and then I'm going to give one kind of surprise guy. Dan, you can give one, two, three if you want, but that's my plan. So my three guys, I'm going to be kind of boring on the first two. Paul. I think Paul's going to be up there. I think he's getting a little bit annoyed of everybody talking the way they're talking. His interview had a little hint of wanting to prove people wrong in a way, if that makes sense. I may be wrong, but kind of just seemed annoyed at the same questions he's getting asked over and over again. And I think he knows that this is a big moment for him on the biggest stage to kind of I'm not going to say salvage the season. That's the wrong word to say because he's had a great year. But to really make this a great year, I think he knows what he needs to do, and he's due every 3 years. It's his time. So I'm going to say Paul. I'm going to say Chris Dickerson. I'm going to give it to him until he proves us otherwise. He's playing great. This is a great course for him. He seems focused. One thing I didn't mention before, he's been very open about this, which I think is pretty awesome, that he suffers from some anxiety. Um, I know one thing he said before that he doesn't like flying, and that's caused him to miss some events at times. And I think it's just underlying anxiety that flying makes worse, probably. And he said disc golf has nothing to do with it, and in fact, disc golf helps it. And he said he's got it under control really well right now. I think that'll just make his mental game even better, probably, if he's in a good place right now. And I think Chris could definitely take it down. And then my other guy, I'm gonna go with, this is like sort of kind of teetering on like a surprise, but I'm gonna say Adam Hammis. I think that he is in a good place right now. I think he's playing out of his mind this year in general. Great season. He's a guy that plays smart, makes good decisions, has a forehand, a great forehand. Like, let's get that straight. And one thing is that I noticed after paying attention to some practice rounds, there's a lot of putts out there that you have to make a decision if you're going to lay up or you're going to run it. And when I think of people running putts, I think of Ricky Wysocki, but I also think of Adam. Adam's not afraid to run a putt, and he bangs some long ones. And I think those are, those death-type putts where if you miss, it's an elevated basket and it's going to fall long ways. He's not afraid to run those, and he's not afraid to make them. He makes them a lot. So I think he's going to be up there. And let's do our regular three, and then we'll do our surprises after.
Sure. So I'm gonna just choose my who I think is gonna win, and then I'll kind of do two picks that I think look out for, and I think they're gonna be up there. Number one is one of the 1050 guys, Eagle Mcmahon. I'm a huge Eagle Mcmahon fan. I think he's amazing as a player, and I think his mental game has came around just like we were talking about earlier. So I think he's the favorite to win this event, and I think he's got all the skills. He's the favorite hands down. So I think he's my pick to win this event. And then the other two guys are players that um, are solid. Mike mentioned one, Adam Hammis. I think he's just playing so hot right now. He's got one of the best forehands in the game right now, and he's got that killer instinct, especially on the putting green. I mean, he's one of those guys where you have to make that decision. There's no decision to be made for him. He's running it, and there's a good chance he's banging it. So, I think he's going to do really well at this event, and he's been doing really well in the past. And then my third, Nate Sexton. Nate Sexton's just a baller, and USDGC is his homeland. Now,
Wow.
when I think of USDGC, what's the first disc you think about when you think about USDGC? Sexton,
Polecats.
Firebird, get out. Sexton, Firebird,
Halo Polecats.
get out of here. We need them, and I'm gonna bring it to us. But the Sexton Firebird is the first disc I
Yep.
think about, and who throws it the best in the world? Nate Sexton. Probably because he's got 2015 runs that no one can get, but that's beside the point. I think he's gonna do really well, and something he just doesn't look rusty ever. I mean,
Yeah.
he's came out on tour, kind of popped out, and he's got his own stuff back at home with family and stuff, which is why I can't be here all the time. But even on courses where he's come around and played a lot of the ball golf courses where he's not gonna shine, he doesn't throw as far. But he just doesn't look rusty. He's always putting well, throwing well, so I think he's gonna do really good this weekend. And if not, then he's rusty, so I get that excuse.
Yeah, it's
So
cop out.
yeah,
All right.
no.
So, my surprise player, I mean, it feels wrong to call this a surprise. I don't want any disrespect, but when you have those top guys every week, it's going to be a surprise when this guy wins it. And that's Gary Gerthy. Gary Gerthy's going to win this event. Throwers throw. USDGC is all about throwers. Gerthy can throw. He's
Can't
hot.
putt, though.
He's hot. Yeah, he's gonna find it, man. He played really well. Music City Open took fourth place, I believe, and he's gonna string together some amazing rounds. He's gonna throw it well. His putting's gonna keep him. His throwing's gonna keep him in it. His putting's gonna come through. I think he's gonna pull it off. He's gonna be up there. We're gonna be talking about him on the last day for sure. I have a feeling.
Wow, that's surprising. I mean, I love Garrett. Don't get me wrong, but he's got zero forehand.
I need
A
it.
lackluster putt. Hey, he throws a rock probably better than anyone. He's the most butter rock thrower in the. Anyways, I think
Don't
he's
you throw
awesome.
rocks?
No, I don't.
If he did, it'd be you probably.
True.
What?
Um,
What's your surprise take?
I'm see. I'm gonna choose someone that I don't know is gonna. This isn't for to win the event. I think this is someone just to come out and play really solid in the event. Maybe not win, but just prove themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go with the dark horse pick, and if that's any indication on who I'm picking,
What?
I'm gonna pick Brody Smith. I think he's a player who he's been sick. He's missed the last few Pro Tour stops, but I think he's a baller, and this is the perfect course. He throws far. I don't think people realize how far he throws. He's probably in the top 25 distance
Okay.
throwers in the like he
20,
throws far.
do you?
And forehand throws really well. He's
He
been
said his.
getting these.
He
I don't
says,
care. What he's lying to you. He is lying to you.
"I don't care." He says.
I don't. And who cares if it's a little nose up? Where's he gonna throw it into a tree? I've only seen like 5 trees on that whole course.
True.
Okay,
True.
so I think
Mozzarella stick.
he might just mess around and hit a mozzarella stick. But I really like him on this course, especially
What
his
does that
putt.
mean, though? You said he's not going to win. So what does
I'll
that
get
mean?
into that. I think great putter coming along with a step putt. I think a top 25 at the hardest or at the most prestigious event of the year with undoubtedly the hardest field in disc golf. I think a top 25 would be a win at this event, maybe even a top 20. So
That's
don't be surprised to see his name up there. I think he's going to come out and compete.
that's not hot
Um,
enough take for me. Top 15?
I'll go top 15. Yeah, push it.
Top 15.
Brody Smith,
Brody
top
Smith.
15.
All right,
Write it
Brody.
down.
Get this to Brody. Get this to Brody right now.
Hey, if you're ever watching this, Brody, I'm rooting for you, man. Top 15. We got some kind of bet going on with me and Mike. I'm not sure what it is, but
We'll
we'll make
figure that
something.
out. All right. Well, I mean, that's a good way to end the show, I think. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Obviously, we're super excited. We're going to get this out probably super early in the morning before the first round so people can kind of watch it as it's starting out. We might do some content throughout the week. We'll see how that works out timing-wise. We'd love to do that for you guys. So stay in touch with that. Look, make sure to subscribe and everything. But did you have anything else, Dan?
No, get ready for some disc golf, guys.
Yeah.
That's gonna be awesome.
It's best week of the year for disc golf, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's all we got. We'll, like I said, we might touch base with you guys in a few days. Otherwise, we'll be here next week to talk about Brody Smith's top 10, the top 15 finish, I guess. So, see you later, guys.
Peace out, guys.